I never thought my own parents would put a price tag on family loyalty. 3 years ago, I moved back home to save them from foreclosure, paying $1,500 in rent while renovating their house. I sacrificed my independence to be the dutiful son. Yesterday, they asked me to move out, but keep paying that rent so my unemployed younger brother Jake could have my room. The golden child needs his space, apparently at my expense. I began missing family events to work partly from necessity and partly to avoid the constant judgment. This only widened the gap as my absence was interpreted as rebellion rather than dedication. The business gradually gained traction. 6 months after launch, I had 27 specialty retailers using ShopStream. I landed my first major client, a regional chain of boutique stores with 12 locations, which doubled my monthly revenue overnight. When I brought home an A-, my father would ask why it was not an A+. When Jake brought home a C, there would be celebration and ice cream because he was trying his best. This pattern continued throughout our lives. I worked hard through high school, earned a partial scholarship to college, and still had to work 20 hours a week at the campus bookstore to make ends meet. Meanwhile, Jake got a full ride from our parents for his first attempt at college, which ended after 2 semesters when he decided business administration was not his passion. I graduated with honors in computer science, landed an entry-level position, and worked my way up over the next decade. Each promotion came through dedication and overtime, not luck. By 30, I had established myself in my field and was earning 6 figures. I had a nice apartment downtown, a healthy retirement account, and was living the life I had worked for. Jake, on the other hand, had tried and abandoned 3 different colleges each time with a new major that was supposedly his true calling: art history, psychology, then communications. Each attempt funded primarily by our parents with occasional part-time jobs that never seemed to last more than a few months. Despite this, at family gatherings, his latest interest was always the main topic of conversation. I remember last Thanksgiving, I had just been promoted to lead a new department. When I mentioned it, my mother said, "That is nice, Bruce," and immediately turned to Jake to ask about his new photography class, spending 20 minutes examining the 3 photos he had taken for homework. Despite the clear favoritism, I maintained a decent relationship with my parents. I called weekly, visited monthly, and genuinely cared about their well-being. So when my father called me in tears 3 years ago, I listened carefully. The manufacturing plant, where he had worked as a manager for 25 years, had closed during the recession. At 62, he found himself unemployed with few prospects. My mother's part-time job as a school administrator was not enough to cover their mortgage. They were 3 months behind and facing foreclosure. Without hesitation, I offered to help. Initially, I thought I would just cover a few mortgage payments until my father found another job. But after 6 months of unsuccessful interviews, it became clear this was not a temporary situation. That is when I made the decision that would change everything. I gave up my downtown apartment and moved back home. The agreement was straightforward. I would pay $1,500 monthly in rent, which covered most of their mortgage payment. I would also contribute to utilities and groceries. In exchange, I would have the master bedroom with the attached office space for my remote work days. What started as a 1 to 2 year plan extended to 3 years. During that time, I invested over $20,000 of my own savings to renovate their outdated bathroom and kitchen. I replaced the cracked tile, installed new fixtures, and updated the ancient appliances. These were improvements to their home that would increase its value, but I did it because I wanted them to have nice things in their retirement years. Throughout this time, Jake continued his pattern of starting and abandoning various endeavors. He moved to Chicago for a photography internship that lasted 6 months, then to Minneapolis for a job at a friend's startup that folded. Most recently, he had been in Milwaukee, supposedly working as a social media manager for a local business. The first sign that something was changing came about 2 months ago. My mother casually mentioned during dinner that Jake might need to come home for a while. When I asked why, she quickly changed the subject. Then I began noticing my parents having whispered phone conversations that would stop when I entered the room. Once I heard my mother say, "We have not told Bruce yet. We need to find the right time." Last weekend, while looking for some tools in the garage, I discovered several boxes labeled Jake stuff and for Jake's room. The strange part was that they were positioned near the stairs leading to my bedroom. My suspicions grew when I overheard my mother on the phone with her friend saying Jake needs his space more than Bruce does. Bruce is established. He will understand. When I asked my father about future plans, he became strangely defensive, saying, "Nothing is set in stone. We will discuss it as a family when the time comes." The tension peaked during our regular Sunday dinner. My parents exchanged meaningful glances when Jake called. After my father hung up, he cleared his throat and said we needed to talk about something important. That was when they dropped the bomb that would make me question everything about our relationship. My father sat me down at the kitchen table. I had refinished myself just months earlier. With a businesslike tone that seemed practiced, he explained that Jake had lost his apartment in Milwaukee. The details were vague, something about roommate issues and the landlord being unreasonable. "I need to know what is happening," I said directly. "I found boxes labeled for my room, and you have been having secret conversations for weeks." My mother's eyes welled with tears as she confessed, "Jake needs to come home, Bruce. He is in a really bad place right now." "What about me?" I asked. "I live here. I pay rent." That is when my father delivered the proposal that left me speechless. "We thought, since you are doing so well financially, you could get your own place," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "But we were hoping you could continue to help us with the mortgage for a while, just until Jake gets back on his feet." I stared at them, trying to process what they were suggesting. They wanted me to move out of the home I was financially supporting so Jake could have my space while I continued to pay for it from elsewhere. "Jake needs family support right now," my mother added, as if that explained everything. "You are so independent, Bruce. You have always been able to take care of yourself." "What about the $1,500 I pay monthly?" I asked. "And the renovations I have made to your house?" "Well," my father said, shifting uncomfortably, "that is what family does. You have been successful, and we always expected you would help out. We supported you through college after all." This statement floored me. They had contributed exactly $5,000 toward my education, while I worked and took out student loans for the rest. Meanwhile, they had fully funded Jake's multiple failed attempts at higher education. Over the next few days, I discovered more disturbing information. I never thought my own parents would put a price tag on family loyalty. 3 years ago, I moved back home to save them from foreclosure, paying $1,500 in rent while renovating their house. I sacrificed my independence to be the dutiful son. Yesterday, they asked me to move out but keep paying that rent so my unemployed younger brother, Jake, could have my room. The golden child needs his space, apparently at my expense. I saw messages discussing Jake's credit card debt, which my parents had been helping to pay off using the money I was giving them for housing. I began to see the renovations I had made in a new light. The kitchen I had updated with granite countertops and new cabinets, the bathroom with the rainfall shower and heated floors, all investments I had made thinking I was helping my parents in their retirement years. In reality, I had been increasing the value of their home while they planned to push me out. The situation worsened when Jake arrived unannounced one Tuesday evening with his remaining belongings. He strolled into the house like he already owned it, dropping his bags in the hallway. "Mom said my room would be ready by next week," he announced, nodding toward the stairs to my bedroom. His casual attitude about taking the space I had been paying for was infuriating. As we ate dinner, he talked about changes he wanted to make to the room, including painting over the neutral color I had chosen when I renovated it last year. "So, Bruce, when are you moving out?" he asked, Between bites of the lasagna, our mother had prepared Jake's favorite meal. "I have not agreed to anything yet," I replied coldly. Jake laughed. "Come on, bro. You can afford your own place. You make bank right. Besides, you owe the family after all the support you have had. I live here. I pay rent." That is when my father delivered the proposal that left me speechless. "We thought, since you are doing so well financially, you could get your own place," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "But we were hoping you could continue to help us with the mortgage for a while, just until Jake gets back on his feet." I stared at them, trying to process what they were suggesting. I spent that night gathering documentation of every dollar I had contributed to the household over the past 3 years, including receipts for the renovations. At the meeting, I presented a spreadsheet showing my total financial contribution of $54,000 in rent alone, not including the $20,000 plus for renovations or the utilities and groceries I regularly covered. "If I move out, I will stop paying rent here," I stated firmly. "Or, if you want me to continue helping Jake, should pay at least $700 monthly if he takes my room." The response was immediate and emotional. "After all, we have sacrificed for you," my mother said tearfully. "This is how you repay us." Jake scoffed. "You can afford it. What is the big deal? I will pay rent when I get a decent job." My father concluded the meeting by telling me I had 2 weeks to make arrangements. The decision apparently had already been made without my input. The true breaking point came 3 days later. I returned from work early to find Jake in my home office using my professional equipment without permission. He had his feet up on my desk and was browsing job listings on my dual monitor setup. "What are you doing?" I demanded. "This is my workspace and my equipment. Chill out," he said without moving. "I am just using it until I get my own setup. Mom said it was fine." My blood boiled. This was not just any computer, but a high-end system I used for both work and my side projects. I had paid for every component myself. "This is not yours to use," I said firmly. "I need you to leave my office now." Instead of apologizing, Jake launched into a tirade about how I had always been selfish, never sharing with him growing up. The argument escalated until our parents came running upstairs. To my disbelief, they took Jake's side. "Bruce, you have 2 computers. Can you not let your brother use one until he gets on his feet?" my father asked. "Jake deserves a chance, like you had." He continued as if I had been handed my success on a silver platter, rather than earning it through years of hard work. My mother added her own twist of the knife. "I think you are being selfish, Bruce. Family helps family." In that moment, I saw with perfect clarity what I had refused to acknowledge for years. To my family, my value lay solely in what I could provide financially. The support, love, and respect I thought we shared was conditional on my continued role as the family ATM. That night, I could not sleep. I lay awake, replaying memories from childhood through adulthood. The piano recitals my parents missed because Jake had a cold. The high school graduation where they left early because Jake was bored. The college graduation they skipped entirely because Jake had finals despite the fact that he would drop out 2 weeks later. I calculated the total financial support I had provided over 3 years. $54,000 in rent, $22,000 in renovations, roughly $9,000 in utilities and groceries, $85,000 invested in a family that now wanted me to leave but keep paying. The betrayal cut deep. These were the people I trusted most, the ones I had sacrificed for, and they had been planning to use me all along. The realization was painful but necessary. This was a lifelong pattern of emotional manipulation that would never end unless I ended it. By morning, I had reached my decision point: continue being exploited, or finally stand up for myself. For the first time in my life, I chose myself. My response was strategic and thorough. While sorting through some mail, I found bank statements showing my parents had been sending Jake $300 monthly even as I was paying their mortgage. A casual conversation with my mother revealed that Jake had not lost his job due to downsizing, as they had told me, but had been fired for chronic lateness and unreliability. The most shocking revelation came when my father accidentally left his email open on the family computer. I secretly toured apartments in an upscale neighborhood. I had always admired one with amenities like a fitness center, rooftop terrace, and concierge service. Things I had denied myself while funneling money into my parents' home. I documented all the home improvements I had made with before and after photos and receipts, just in case there was ever a legal dispute about my contributions. First, I consulted with a lawyer about my tenant rights, learning that without a written lease, I was considered a month-to-month tenant in our state and needed to provide 30 days' notice before moving. Next, I met with a financial advisor to create a new budget that accounted for having my own place while also building back the savings I had depleted, helping my parents. She helped me see that I had been stunting my own financial growth through this arrangement. The following Sunday, I arrived at family dinner with a formal letter giving 30 days' notice of my intent to vacate. I handed it to my father after the meal. "What is this?" he asked, putting on his reading glasses. "My 30-day notice," I replied calmly. "I will be moving out on the 1st of next month as you requested, and at that time, my financial contributions to this household will end completely." The shock on my parents' faces was almost worth the 3 years of being taken for granted. My mother spoke first. "But Bruce, we thought you would keep helping with the mortgage. We cannot afford it without you." "That is not my problem anymore," I said, surprising myself with my firmness. "I have found a place that suits me better." Jake, who had been silent, suddenly looked concerned. "So you are just going to abandon the family?" "Real nice, bro." I turned to him. I researched fair market rent for similar properties in their neighborhood, confirming I had been paying well above average. With all elements of my exit strategy in place, I signed a lease on a luxury 2-bedroom apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city skyline. The rent was actually less than what I had been paying my parents, an irony that was not lost on me. After that, this household finances are no longer my responsibility. My father's face shifted from shock to panic as the reality sank in. "But Bruce," he started, "we cannot afford the mortgage without your help." "You should have considered that before deciding to replace me with Jake," I replied. "I suggest he start job hunting immediately." The next 30 days were tense, but illuminating. My parents cycled through various emotions and strategies to maintain their grasp on my finances. First came anger. My mother accused me of abandoning them, claiming I never really cared about the family. My father suggested I was being spiteful and immature. When that did not work, they attempted renegotiation. "What if you just pay half the rent?" my father proposed one evening. "Just for 6 months until we figure something out." I calmly declined, reminding them that they had made their choice when they decided Jake's need for my room was greater than my position in the family. As my moving date approached, the reality of their financial situation, without my contribution, became clear. My father sat down with their budget for perhaps the first time in years and realized they were facing a significant shortfall. Jake was told in no uncertain terms that he needed to find employment immediately. My mother made tearful attempts to delay my departure, suddenly finding reasons why my new apartment might not be ready or suggesting I might regret moving so quickly. I recognized these tactics for what they were and held firm to my timeline. On moving day, my father helped carry boxes to my car in awkward silence. As I prepared to leave, he finally spoke words I had waited years to hear. "The way we handled this was not fair to you, Bruce. I see that now. It was not a full apology, but it was an acknowledgement, and for now that was enough." My new apartment became more than just a living space. It became a symbol of my independence and self-respect. Setting up my home office with the perfect desk positioning and organization system, I felt a sense of ownership I had forgotten. The first evening I spent on my balcony, Watching the sunset over the city skyline, I experienced a profound sense of freedom. For the first time in years, I could make decisions without factoring in family judgment or expectations. I reconnected with friends I had neglected during my time as family caretaker, scheduling dinners and weekend activities that had previously seemed too indulgent. The money I had been spending on my parents' mortgage now went partly to my own comfortable living space and partly into investments for my future. I resumed hobbies I had set aside, joining a local rock climbing gym and taking a weekend photography workshop, ironically, something Jake had dabbled in and abandoned. I have supported this family for 3 years. What exactly have you contributed? Before anyone could respond with more guilt trips or manipulation, I stood up and took out my phone, opening the voice recording app. Our state has one-party consent for recordings, and I wanted documentation of this conversation. I am recording this for clarity, I said. To summarize, I will be moving out in 30 days as requested. My final rent payment will be next week. Slowly, I rebuilt my sense of self-worth, independent of family approval or validation. Over the next 6 months, interesting changes occurred in my family. Faced with financial reality, my parents had serious conversations with Jake about responsibility. He found an entry-level position at a marketing firm, not his dream job, but steady employment with a regular paycheck. For the first time, he was contributing to household expenses, even if at a fraction of what I had provided. After 3 months of minimal contact, I agreed to meet my parents for coffee at a neutral location. The conversation was stilted but respectful. They did not ask for money, and I did not offer any. We talked about neutral topics, establishing a new baseline for interaction. By the 1-year mark of my move, our relationship had evolved into something I had never experienced before with them. My financial independence had forced a recalibration of how they viewed and treated me. The journey was not without challenges. Initially, I struggled with guilt and doubt. Had I been too harsh? Should I have found a middle ground? These questions led me to seek weekly therapy sessions where I learned about family dynamics and the concept of golden child and scapegoat roles that had shaped our family. Structure. My therapist helped me establish clear financial and emotional boundaries, including a period of limited contact that gave me perspective on the relationship. Setting boundaries was not just necessary for my well-being, it ultimately benefited everyone. Jake finally began developing the independence and responsibility he had avoided for years. My parents faced their financial reality and made appropriate adjustments, and I discovered my own worth beyond what I could provide materially. Family will always be important to me, but I now understand that true family supports your growth rather than exploiting your success. Sometimes the people who share your blood are not the ones who have your best interests at heart. The family we choose can be more nurturing than the one we are born into. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who took you for granted? Leave a comment below sharing how you handled similar situations. Your experience might help someone else facing the same challenges. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe for more real-life lessons learned the hard way. Remember that putting yourself first is not selfish, it is necessary for a healthy life. Thank you for listening to my story, and I wish you the strength to create the boundaries you deserve in all your relationships.